Today in the crypto space, we see a bit of a dip throughout the market. Bitcoin right around that $36,500 level, and Ethereum slightly below that $2,000 mark. The rest of the crypto space, the altcoins, pretty much in the red. We have a few dips throughout the market: Solana, Matic, AVAX, and a few others. In today's video, I want to talk about the general market. I want to use Bitcoin as a leading indicator, but more importantly, guys, I want to be talking about small cap projects, those micro cap gems that could definitely run. And the first one we're going to cover is Paribus. PBX is the ticker. So you know what? Let's talk about the news. Let's analyze the charts and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome on the channel. We talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunities. Whether we go up or down, bearish or bullish, it doesn't matter. All we want to do is stay one step ahead of the market so that we can capitalize on any of the volatility. And if you appreciate the strategy, subscribe to the channel and click that bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, including the live streams at 7:30 Eastern, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Guys, if you have any projects you want me to cover here on the channel, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. You can hit me up on the socials. The links are in the description. But better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is a great community, lots of good alpha, trade setup fundamentals, learning material, and all that good stuff. All right, guys, let's begin looking at this general market. Of course, we're going to start looking at the general market. We're going to look at Bitcoin as a leading indicator, and of course, we're going to be looking at some of these lower cap projects. Guys, in the next little while, you're going to see a bit of a shift in the channel where I'm going to be looking at those micro caps. You know, on the next impulsive move to the downside, I think it's going to be a great opportunity to load up on some of those smaller cap projects as we are slowly building confirmations of a potential, bottom here in the crypto space. And as we get closer to the halving, I want to ensure that I get my entries nice and low on some of these really bullish low cap, micro cap projects. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And of course, today's video is going to focus on Paribus, PBX. It is a DeFi platform. But before we get into that, let's look at this general market, guys. There's definitely dips throughout this market today. You know, it's not huge, obviously not huge dips. Solana down approximately 7.5%. You know, this corrective move is there, definitely. It is definitely not a break of character within this overall, higher high, higher low structure. And this is something that we have to be aware of. It could just be a pullback until we get a confirmation high, a lower high, and then we start building that confidence that maybe, yes, we are printing a pivot point on this market. Right now, Solana, although it is dipping, nothing to really be totally concerned about just yet. I'm expecting a bullish response, and then from there, we can decide, whether the bulls are showing weakness upon the response. It doesn't have to happen. I would just throw it out there, guys. Solana could keep on breaking down, and never mind Solana, the rest of the market could keep on breaking down. But generally speaking, it would be nice to get a nice back test. Doge is looking pretty good here, guys. Up 12% in the last little while, up 4% for today. Pretty solid. What else do we have? We have dips. A few dips throughout the market, 4%, 5%. Between 5 to 10% is pretty average here. Uniswap down a little bit. Range lows, testing those range lows. Does it make a lower low? That's something to consider here, guys. Kaspa rolling off on the top there, not looking very healthy the way it is. It does look like it's possible to roll over here. It's already down approximately 8.5%, but don't forget, Kaspa has run up really hard. So really, 8% dip is nothing into comparison to what it has been doing in the last little while. So just understand that right now what I would be doing is getting defensive and getting slightly prepared for an offensive approach, especially once the dip finishes. I feel like we're going to get a full reset on momentum, at least on the 4-hour. We'll take a look at that 4-hour and keep an eye on the 4-hour for sure. But the question is, what about if we get a full reset on momentum on the daily? That's when things start to get really red. We get those double-digit dips, and that's when I'm going to go out there shopping, ready to go, especially once we start showing signs of support at a good horizontal level. And of course, I'll give you those updates along the ways, guys. But I think right now we need to really be patient with this market. And if it's going to dip, let it do its thing. Now's the time to potentially sit back and relax and enjoy the gains, because we had a couple of weeks of some good good runs to the upside. Now it's about letting the market resolve. Let it do its thing, and then let's get some signals. Filecoin coming down to the bottom of the range once again, testing that previous low, not looking good. When you see those previous lows being tested like that, this is the ultimate level where you should be getting support. And if it doesn't, it's going to start breaking down and making those lower lows confirmations. Those lower lows are not really good. We get a back test. We already got a lower high, now a lower low. That's it. Filecoin's coming down for a bit of a retracement. H-bar not looking good either, to be honest. A lot of these altcoins not looking the best. Near protocol still going up pretty good, higher highs and higher lows still, up 7%. That's pretty healthy. I like Near protocol. So let's see what Near is going to be doing in the short term. But nonetheless, if Bitcoin, Ethereum tend to roll over, if they do show signs of weakness, a lot of these alts are definitely going to roll over with it. Okay, so something to consider. Mantle doing pretty good, up 10% in the last little bit, 7 days, pretty good. IMX going sideways. Render looking for a breather, perhaps. I don't know. Render at the end of the day is probably, looking for some support. We could get another impulsive move, but Render at the end of the day did very, very well. I'm not looking for any fresh longs on Render. Algo, you may be looking for a slumpy move to the downside. Tau, BitTensor, guys, this thing has been on fire. It could be gearing up for another impulsive move, but nonetheless, I am not ready for any fresh longs on Tau. In fact, I would be trailing up a stop loss right underneath this latest consolidation, just in case eventually, if it does roll over, you can stop yourself out in some major gains, right? So that's the thing. Right now, get defensive and start planning out an offensive strategy by ensuring you have cash on the side, number one, and looking for those levels and looking for those projects you're interested in buying in if it does roll over. Stacks coming down to lower levels, bottom of the range type of thing. Sandbox coming down, a lot of dips overall in the market, a few, but nothing that scary. We didn't get any double-digit dips so far, so we got to be patient if we're going to want to see those. And of course, here on the channel, we don't mind bearish or bullish, up or down. We just got to show patience for the market to resolve itself. So on average, we're looking at about 5% to the downside throughout the market. And obviously, those are good dips for short-term bounces or short-term volatility. But I'm looking for further dips, guys. I want to see what's going to be happening in the upcoming days with regards to this market. If we are going to get a fire sale, I want to be ready to deploy. All right, guys, I know you're here to talk about charts. Let's begin talking about Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin up to in the last little while? Bitcoin has been running up, obviously. Bitcoin right now is in the consolidation. Bitcoin right now is not giving us any real signals of bullish continuation. In fact, I would say that the argument, the thesis behind a bearish, bearish sentiment is definitely there. We have higher highs on the price action, lower highs on the RSI. We have the momentum in the volumes totally shifting to the downside, and the MACD gave us a bearish cross with a few EMAs to the downside. Guys, let's look at this in a little bit more detail. As you can see, all of the momentum right now on Bitcoin is looking very exhausted, and it could be the fact that Bitcoin kind of hangs out here for the next little while. It could be that we see altcoins continue as Bitcoin resolves itself at this level on the daily time frame. We can get another impulsive move up and so on and so forth. But in the end of the day, for me personally, it's not the right time to get into any risky moves, bullish risky moves right now on Bitcoin and even on some of the alts that have already run to the upside. I'm looking for entries in altcoins that have yet to run with good fundamentals at good levels of support. That for me poses a great risk to reward ratio opportunity where I can put a stop loss right at invalidation and I can cut my losses really quickly just in case the market decides to roll over. And as you can see, Bitcoin is not really giving us the confidence that it's looking for another impulsive move after being in overbought conditions for this amount of time on the daily, guys, on the daily, showing bearish divergence on the daily on both the RSI and the MACD, and slowly coming down to those lower levels. So let's see what happens here with Bitcoin. We could definitely get a bit of a bounce and then hang out here. You know how it is. It does take time to eventually build the patterns and build the structure for it to break down. So we're going to have to be very patient. Okay, guys. Of course, today's video is all about Paribus. But what is Paribus? Paribus, at the end of the day, is a DeFi platform. Redefine your yield. It's a cross-chain borrowing and lending protocol for NFTs, basically liquidity positions, synthetic assets, building for the Cardano blockchain. So this is an important thing to consider. Cardano has been a bit stagnant, and that usually means that when it's time for it to move, it should move. Now, of course, Cardano gets a lot of heat. Cardano's heat essentially is the fact that it doesn't do much. But as we see the ecosystem grow, we're going to have use case for Cardano, and Cardano is a rock. Cardano has been very, very stable, very secure, and slow and steady, has been building, it has been growing, and so on and so forth, right? Value proposition is still there. And as we build confidence in, the stability behind Cardano, we are also seeing that the ecosystem is slowly grinding to the upside, right? So this is the thing. This is why I decided to look at Paribus, because if at the end of the day, Cardano finally starts making real moves within its ecosystem growth, we can see the major DeFi platforms, particularly in this case, Paribus, do very well. There are other DeFi platforms out there, of course, but I'm looking at this one specifically because the market cap is super low. And this is what I'm going to be focusing on here on the channel for the next little while, is lower cap projects, because I want to make sure that I pack my bags prior to any moves. As we see the market kind of roll over here, it's a good opportunity to start at least researching for these opportunities, because then once the bus or the train leaves the station, it is too late, guys. We've already experienced this here with the current pump to the upside, and you don't want to be the one that's left behind. So we got to get early, we got to start researching, and this is what I'm going to be doing here on the channel for the next little while. Guys, obviously join me live at 7:30 tonight. We can talk about this in a little bit more detail. We can get into a Q&A type of thing and kind of do this as a community. Feel free to join the Discord. I'm going to find a way to make this a collaborative process where we can kind of all come together and find out which projects are the best ones for us to focus on, and we can basically critique our thesis. Let's move on. Price action wise, guys, you're looking at the daily. Okay, this is a small cap project. The daily at the end of the day is going to have a lot of volatility. Let's look at this range for a second as far as volatility goes. What kind of volatility are we talking about? Just within this tight little range, we're looking at about a 200% range, which means from the top to the bottom of this range, we could have made 200% each time. Each time it got rejected, each time it got support, it's 200%, which means that you could have done very well just trading this range. And this is the thing. Now, what about if and when PBX decides to break the range? Technically speaking, the break of the range should give us a measured move equal to the height of the range, which is this 200%. Now, if you buy at the bottom of this range where the risk to reward ratio is healthy, you could put a stop loss right underneath here. So let's begin by looking at what that means. Right around here is a great place to invalidate your bullish thesis. If it falls below, not looking good. So far, I've only saw one project that fell below that made a lower low. So of course, the market's been rolling over in the last little while. Okay, we can talk about that one tonight to kind of analyze exactly what has been happening. But this case, we are making slightly higher highs and they're nicely rounded bottoms. So for me, this is a great opportunity. Given the fact that it's a low cap, it could easily make 100x in the top of the bull run. 100x means that even if you put in $100, you can 100 times basically 100 times your $100, which is pretty good return over, with that investment. So that's pretty good. Also, ultimately, you want to get in nice and low. So ultimately getting in at the bottom of the range is going to give you that best risk to reward ratio. Now, from a percentage wise, you start to look at, okay, what about if we break out and we make another 100%? The reality is, what support do we have or resistance do we have yet to watch out for once this thing breaks out? Guys, this is where the beauty comes into these projects. There is no resistance. Okay, there is very little resistance up until we get to about 0.008, which for me poses the greatest opportunity to accumulate within this range. And guess what? We're not in a bad state. We're not at the bottom. Unfortunately, we could have got in a little bit earlier, but it's okay, because big picture, let's look at what kind of gains we're in. And I'm talking about spot, not leverage, okay? Get in right now. Just to the top from where we are right now, 80%. If we start breaking out, we start breaking this range, and we get to the higher level, measured move more or less is going to make you to get you to 174, right? That's another area to watch out for, because looking left, you can see that we have a bit of price action. There's some tops there that could act as resistance. But ultimately, look at the VPVR, look at the volume profile that shows us there's no resistance all the way up to about 0.008, which yields you about 500% profit. Okay, so this is where the magic happens. Now, this is not even talking about bull run status. This is about, making a nice move to the upside without resistance. Now, if we start looking at other levels, we start looking at, what about if it gets into the previous high type of scenario? Cardano doing very well. Guys, this is an EVM compatible type of project because of its Cardano interoperability. So something that you have to understand is that, at the end of the day, there's a lot of value given the fact that it can get into other chains, right? So that's something else that we got to talk about on a deep dive one day. So definitely stay tuned for my deep dives. I'll be releasing a deep dive on Sunday, so stay tuned for that one. But you can see that this project has a lot of potential upside in relation to the potential downside. So this is why spot buying right now, in my opinion, obviously not financial advice, just I'm going to be doing what I'm going to be doing, is starting to scale into low cap projects under 30 million, under $20 million market caps with decent value propositions, so that at the end of the day, when we do eventually get into this bull run phase, we have bought the absolute bottom. Now, one thing to understand is that these projects that are so low cap are very, very volatile, and they're very fickle in the sense that if they break that low, it's very likely that we start hitting much lower levels. This is why it's important to, number one, put the stop loss. Number two, anticipate the bottom range, right? It could definitely come down. And if we do come back down to the bottom of the range, what kind of percentages are we potentially going to get into? Looking at a 50% dip, right? 50% dip. So if you get in with $100, you'll lose $50 right off the spot, just coming down to the bottom of the range. So put that into perspective. You go in with 1,000, you lose half of it, 500. But again, look at the reward. Okay, you can definitely do very well given the fact that the risk to reward is super healthy. This is why I like spot buys. Now, what you can do is, instead of worrying about catching the bottom, DCA all within this area. If we happen to take a dip based on the market conditions that we have been seeing in the last 24 hours to 48 hours, which is seeing Bitcoin kind of slump down. We saw Ethereum looking a little bit sloppy. It's a lot of sloppy price action, which means that we could see a bit of a dip throughout the altcoins as well. And if that's the case, what about if we come back to range lows? So let's put a box to kind of identify that this is a good area to start DCAing and building a position based on the fact that we are going sideways at the bottom of the range. Now, we're looking at the daily. Fine, the daily right now is overbought, so that definitely gives a bit of a some consensus here that, look, getting into right now is a bit risky. It could definitely roll over. Let's go on to the weekly just to kind of see where it's going. The weekly, as you can see, didn't even get overbought yet. It's not even overbought. It's in the chop zone. So it's very likely that we kind of hang out here and eventually break to the upside. And as you can see, this is a low cap project that could definitely run. Okay, definitely run. So not overbought yet on the weekly, as some altcoins have already gotten. Okay, the 4-day trekking, kind of doing its thing. The daily overbought already, as mentioned. It should roll over. The 4-hour might be looking for a full reset, at least coming down to the previous lows on momentum that it hasn't happened in a good while. So what we really got to anticipate is that the momentum right here kind of went up. Let me show you what I mean. Let me get a pen going, and you can see that right at this level, we kind of went up and we stayed up. What about now as slowly we start rolling over? And as we see this happen, we'll see something like this. And then that's when we may want to start getting in, is when we see a full reset of the momentum, right? It doesn't have to take this long. It could be much quicker, you know what I mean? But I'm just giving you an idea of what I expect is at least on the 4-hour to see this happening. And if it happens, we might enter this area once again. Now, you don't want to miss out, right? Of course, the FOMO is there. Always fear, your fear of missing out on the action. Get some skin in the game, guys. Maybe get a little bit, 10% and 20%. Then 30%, you get what I mean, until you deploy your entire capital. That way, at the end of the day, if we do run right now, you have some skin in the game and you could definitely be happy with some of those profits. But what about if it doesn't backtest and it doesn't roll over? Guys, this thing starts breaking out based on an altcoin season or something like that. You're going to, basically feel really bad. The fact is that you didn't get in. So this is why DCAing right now is a decent strategy. And again, zoom out. The reason why I'm saying it, zoom out. Look at this. It's pretty much at the bottom bottom. Are you going to nickel and dime for every little cent at the bottom of the range? This is the time to take a bit of risk, guys. And if you noticed a lot of the other altcoins that ran already, you would have said, look, it's already at the bottom of the range. I should have got in. And then in hindsight, everything is so nice and clear in 2020. So right now, it's pretty much early. You're pretty early to take a bit of risk and understand that if we do break the lows, you want to cut those losses, but accumulating within this range prior to the pop is actually very smart. Okay, so don't get into projects that have already run up significantly. Get into projects that are already at the bottom, hanging out there, waiting for its turn. Okay, this is PBX. I think it's pretty good. Obviously, do your financial research. Nothing that I cover here at the end of the day is advice, financial advice. Do your research. Be fundamentally bullish. It's going to get you to the right spot being fundamentally bullish, because when you see those dips, you'll have the conviction to DCA and you won't get emotional about it because you understand the value proposition and you're behind the overall project and what they're trying to achieve. All right, guys, thank you for stopping by. If you haven't yet, do the channel a massive favor. Slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. And if you want to join me live tonight at 7:30 Eastern, of course, that is a great time and place to make any requests on any projects that you want me to cover here on the channel. And if you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description below. Feel free to join that Discord, guys. The Discord is a great community. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, learning material, and all that good stuff. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.